Trump and Zelensky met at the White House on Friday, and Trump reiterated the point that this war has to end. And of course, it got out of hand very quickly.
But if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems.
Facts.
You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military?
We have problems.
And do you think that it's respectful
to
come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future.
Ooh. Thoughts, Steve? I'm curious what, because
very few people missed that line. Very few people did not recognize.
Oh, I knew what he was saying. He's like, they're coming for you next, whatever. But I know my thoughts on this, and I'm just curious, like Steve, unprompted, like, what do you think about this meeting?
First of all, I think everything's kayfabe on this front. I think that Trump and JD Vance are playing a role. I think Zelensky's playing a role. I don't think, for me, like I get more out of Ren and Stimpy than political theater.
Happy, joy, happy, joy.
Yeah, I truly, but for me, it's very hard to understand how others can take it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And I see people take it very seriously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they buy into the Zelensky hero persona that was created by us.
Imagine a WWE.
I know.
You got the guy walking down the thing.
Are you doing the bushwhacker day? Are you doing the bushwhacker walk? Oh yeah, doing the thing, and they're all yelling, screaming at the guy, throwing stuff at him, and all. And they're really into it, and it's like kayfabe. That's all I want to do is say kayfabe, and that's what I do say. If you look on Twitter, probably 75% of my tweets lately have been going to other people's stuff where they're taking politics very, very seriously. Very, very seriously.
Yeah.
And I just throw the kayfabe definition right on it. Just a big meme that I got ready, locked and loaded whenever I see a knucklehead trying to act like, hey, this is very serious. We got to take it very serious. We're going to talk about for hours. It's very serious. When I kayfabe, immediate kayfabe.
Yeah.
It's like, stop putting your fucking attention there and start building outside of this process so we can win and have at least some chance of a life outside of this shit. They want it to win. They want it to work. It's like my mom used to watch General Hospital and All My Children. And if she didn't get to see her story, she was devastated, I think these people are like that with this too. It's like, oh my God, my stories are on,
Yeah, well, they buy into the narrative because most people who think they're informed watch whatever corporate media they're watching. And so they just know whatever state-sponsored narrative they have, where we've manufactured consent for this ridiculousness in Ukraine that's completely on us, a complete ridiculous could have been prevented. And most of those people truly believe that Putin out of nowhere just invaded Ukraine and he's threatening to take over the world.
Yeah, let me give you a couple quick... Let me just for a second jump in because I put a bunch of stuff out there on this too. Number one, if you don't come to grips with the U.S. is an empire, just start there. Forget everything else you think you know. Just start that today in this era, we are the big kids on the block. Even if we may be diminishing in whatever fashion, we are still the empire.
Yeah.
And we still have 1,000 military bases around the world. And we still are surrounding countries around the world. We still destabilize regions. It's like what happened in Venezuela? We destabilized them. What happened in Argentina? We destabilized them. What happened in Syria? We destabilized them. What happened in Libya? We destabilized them. What happened in Ukraine in 2014? Maidan. What did we do? We destabilized them.
Yep.
People, if they don't acknowledge that, they've lost everything else after that doesn't even matter. You may as well
watch liberals' heads when you say, when this started was Obama. That's when this started, was Obama.
Started before that,
right,
even, girlfriend.
Yes, but I mean, okay, in the most recent exchange of situations since whatever Minsk II agreements, blah, 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 let's say that was a turning point where all of this, the first turning point where all of this could have just been prevented. Yeah. Right. And yet, like, we did the same thing. This is just the guy who was stupid enough or had a big enough ego to fall for the job interview looking for crisis actor or wag the dog actor for Ukraine. And now he's realizing probably shouldn't have gotten involved in this shit.
Yeah. Well, think about what U.S. does, right? I want you to think about this going back to 1945. We created all these NGOs, like, international type things to combat communism. Okay. And so we created the IMF, we created the World Bank, we created the Peace Corps, we created World Trade Organization, we created all these things that were intended to bring all these other countries into the United States sphere of influence. We also created NATO. Okay. NATO was supposed to be gone many, many moons ago. But NATO is an arm in Europe anyway of what? Empire. U.S.
empire.
Okay. IMF is a arm of what? U.S. empire. The IMF and the World Trade and the World Bank, all of it are arms of U.S. empire. Okay. So think about this. A country that stopped manufacturing and outsourced its manufacturing around the globe needs to ensure that the slaves produce to survive, supply home. Okay. Well, what does the U.S. do? The U.S. Give Trump credit. He just let the quiet part out loud. We want your fucking resources. We want your rare earth minerals. We want whatever's under the ground there. Okay. He didn't give a rat's fuck about Ukraine. Neither did Biden. Okay. What they did, their goal was to destabilize Russia. Why? Because Russia, in order to be empire, you have to have a boogeyman at all times. Okay. What Biden did in the State of the Union address, and I bring this up any chance I get, was started to pivot to hating China. He started pivoting to hating China. Okay. Well, we had two evil empires there. We had Russia and we had China. Okay. Dumbasses with Ukraine flags in their profile, calling people Putin puppets. Putin may be a bad guy. He may shit the bed. He might, date multiple women at the same time. May smack kids around. I don't know. But what Putin isn't is an imperialist. Okay. He may have fantasies of the old USSR, blah, 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 but he doesn't have the facilities to manufacture that, period. China, however, has quietly been kicking our ass in every meaningful way. Mm-hmm. So what Trump is doing now is, okay, part one of this process was to destabilize Ukraine, give them an idea they'll be part of NATO, tell them we got you, get everybody's yellow and blue fucking profile pictures and all the other normie shit. Okay. Now that's over with. And so Trump is saying, okay, we are not letting you in NATO. We are here to take your resources. And if you mind your P's and Q's, we might keep Putin from claiming even more territory. Okay. But the bottom line is that it was never about Ukraine. Exactly. It was always about real resources for the United States. It was always about geopolitical destabilization of the people that, quote unquote, are our enemies because they produce better product. China's out there making friends. They're not out there, killing people and dropping bombs and empire. But see, normie people are like, well, China's bad. Look what they do to, Taiwan, and look what they do to the Uyghurs, and look what they do. China is savat kicking us. And the only thing our government can do is try to make them look like shit.
Instead of competing with them economically.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we don't even need to compete. We could be cooperative, right? Of course. But we're not a cooperative nation because we've given up our manufacturing base.
How about this, guys? How about this?
Go for it.
Do you know that in Australia, that it's basically part of the Australian curriculum on the continent to have Mandarin as a prerequisite in public school? How's that?
Yeah, smart.
Yeah.
Our empire will sink.
I just still don't see, and nobody has been yet able to tell me in what way am I, or regular people, just, not oligarchs, in what way am I threatened by Russia or China? That's what I want to know. And what I think about is, so prior to World War II, when Britain was the hegemon, it was, the British Empire was the thing. And so the now that we're the thing, the people in the UK are doing okay. They're doing okay. I don't think the world ended. I mean, they have their issues, but it isn't. It's not like because they're not. Their issues are not because they're not the empire.
Excuse me. It's my turn.
God
So
bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know
bless.
that.
You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering on
position
this
to
question.
dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly
this.
what
I'm not
You're in
dictating.
no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
You
We're
will-
going to feel very
you will
good.
Feel influence.
We're going to feel very
I'm
good and
telling
very
you,
strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed
From the
yourself
very-
to be in a
from
very
the very
bad position,
beginning
and he
of the
happens
war.
to be right about
From
it.
the very beginning of the war.
You're not
Mr.
in a good
Brown,
position.
I
You don't
was
have
in
the cards right now. With us, you start having
not playing
cards. But
cards.
right now, you
I'm
don't.
very
Yeah, you're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're
I'm
gambling
the
with the
president
lives
in
of
war.
millions of people.
You think-
You're gambling with World War III.
what do you think
You're
about?
gambling with
What do you
World
think
War
about?
III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country.
I'm
That's
with
back
all
to you.
respect to you.
Far more than a lot of people said
I'm wearing
they
respect.
should have.
Have you said thank you once? This
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting,
today.
you said thank
Even
you.
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for
What-
the United
what
States
do
of
you
America.
He did.
Ooh,
He did.
facts.
And here's the thing. For all of the shit libs out there, and I know that I thank you, Steve, because you really were the person who made that particular reference to that particular group of political ideologues. It's true. That is who they are. How do we know for sure that Trump is right about this? He is right.
He's totally right.
Because Keir Starmer decided to prove his point yesterday.
The UK is prepared to back this with boots on the ground and planes in the air. Together with others, Europe must do the heavy lifting. But to support peace
Good luck with that, Keir.
and to succeed, this effort must have strong US backing.
Who the fuck is he talking to?
This is he's talking to whatever donors he's trying to grasp.
Well, you can share your thoughts, but I'm going to now show you guys a clip of all the wonderful NATO dignitaries that are arm in arm with Mr. Zelensky and what he's trying to continue.
Okay, well, what I want to say is the neo-lib, this whole mentality, and I'm not talking about them, I'm talking about in this country, the entire mentality of people. If you were more offended by how our leaders spoke to Zelensky, then you're offended by Zelensky playing around with nuclear war, which he is, which this is what's happening, then you're a moron. That's it. That's all I have to say. It's like you're more offended by how he was spoken to than by what they're talking about. And you refuse to give any credit where credit is due. The idea that the person is trying to stop the war is the person you're criticizing is insanity to me.
Can I give you a little bit nuanced opinion on this real quick?
Please.
Peter, I'll let you jump in. I just want to throw this out there. Okay. Most of those countries are Euro countries. They're countries that are on the euro. They're part of the Troika. They're part of that Eurozone.
And Justin Trudeau.
Can you name all of them? I
And
can't.
Trudeau.
Hold on. So yes, but what you've got, and this is really important to understand, the deficit spending in all those Eurozone countries is kept to like 3%. There's a cap, a hard cap that the Troika, the central bank of Euro, that has no country, these vassal states, okay, the only way they can spend more money to keep their economies going is through exceptions. And the war, military spending, is exempted from their deficit issues. Okay. Now that Trump has stepped back and said, hey, we're going to let you guys handle your own backyard.
Ooh.
Do you remember the movie 300 when the poets, not the Spartans, but the guys, the bald headed dude that said, hey, let's go guys. It's our turn. Right. They go out there and they're like, hey man, that was pretty tough. And then they quickly abandon ship. These guys are like those guys, okay? And these guys are like, we're going to do it now. But the reality is, this is a money grab for them. They are a vassal of the United States. They are vassals. And if you want to find out more about Europe, Tom Fozzi, who has a right populist bend at times, okay? But he truly understands the geopolitical angles here. He is sitting there just kicking the shit out of these people because they're pathetic. What they're trying to do is it's called military Keynesianism. These guys have not had real militaries of any consequence.
Nope.
Compared to the United States, they've depended on U.S. You notice how whenever they send their contingents, like 5 tanks, a Sharpie, and a bobblehead or something like that, they don't send they don't like send this massive force out there.
So how are they going to do this? How are they going to do this without us? That's what I'm curious about.
What they're going to do is, because military expenditures are not part of their deficit hold, they're going to be able to spend like drunken sailors on fattening up the military, a la like the U.S. did. So now the U.S., which has to pivot to production locally because we screwed the pooch, if you're going to do empire badly, do it like the U.S., right? So these guys are now going to fill in that void. Because after all, instead of just making peace with Russia and finding a way to coexist with Russia and making the U.S. fall on its, have to deal its own shit, they're going to do exactly what the U.S. wants them to do, which is exactly what they are doing. Make no mistake about it. Just because the U.S. is pulled back doesn't mean the U.S. isn't still driving every bit of that.
Exactly.